They told you intelligence was measured by how much you know, but that's the first lie society feeds you. Knowledge alone doesn't make you powerful. The world is filled with intelligent slaves, people who can solve complex problems but cannot solve themselves. What makes you powerful is not what you know, but how you think. There's a secret, one the powerful have always kept hidden. It's not about learning more. It's about learning differently. The brain can be trained to process reality like a weapon, sharp, detached, strategic. When others react emotionally, you calculate. When others seek approval, you study control. When others chase attention, you build silence. That's the brain hack that separates those who are manipulated from those who manipulate. Most people's minds are built like cages. They are trained to obey emotions, to follow the crowd, to fear isolation. They do not think independently, they simply repeat what they've absorbed. The powerful, however, train their brains to question everything, including their own thoughts. The moment you start observing your mind, you gain control over it. Watch your anger, your jealousy, your fear, as if they belong to someone else. When you can see your emotions from the outside, they lose their control over you. That's when you start to awaken. The Machiavellian mind operates in shadows. It never reveals all its thoughts. It listens more than it speaks. It acts less than it observes, and it always stays one move ahead. You can't manipulate someone who understands how manipulation works. You can't control someone who knows how control is created. Society doesn't want you to think like this. They want you obedient, predictable, emotionally reactive. They want you trapped inside your feelings because emotional people are easy to guide. Anger can be redirected. Fear can be exploited. Desire can be sold. But the cold thinker, the one who controls his emotional reactions, he's dangerous. He's untouchable. To become 10 times smarter, you must begin by slowing your mind. Stop reacting instantly. Let silence grow between thought and action. That silence is where clarity is born. When everyone else is shouting, the one who can think in silence becomes the master of the room. The world runs on illusion. People wear masks, pretend, flatter, lie. They play social games without even realizing they're doing it. But if you train your mind to see through the performance, to read tone, posture, timing, you start to see the invisible strings of power. You stop listening to what people say and start observing why they say it. That shift in perception is the real brain hack. When you start decoding human behavior, you stop being a participant and become a strategist. Every word becomes a clue. Every gesture a signal. Every silence a weapon. The powerful are not born with genius. They build it through control. Control of their time, their focus, and above all, their emotions. They know that the human brain is lazy. It prefers comfort over truth. It runs toward pleasure and away from pain. But those who conquer their own instincts rise above the herd. They can tolerate discomfort, boredom, even rejection, because they are addicted to mastery, not approval. You want to be 10 times smarter? Stop seeking dopamine. Stop craving constant validation. Train your mind to crave understanding instead of entertainment. Replace scrolling with studying. Replace reaction with reflection. The longer you can sit in silence and think deeply, the sharper your mind becomes. Every time you resist the urge to react, your brain rewires itself. It stops functioning on impulse and starts functioning on strategy. The Machiavellian thinker lives in that state permanently, detached from chaos, seeing everything in patterns. People become predictable. Power becomes a game of observation. Imagine walking into a room and instantly knowing who's insecure, who's lying, who's pretending to be confident. You read it from the way they hold their breath, the flicker in their eyes, the hesitation in their voice. That awareness makes you impossible to deceive. It makes you untouchable. The ordinary mind craves attention. The Machiavellian mind controls it. The ordinary mind seeks belonging. The Machiavellian mind creates its own tribe. The ordinary mind fears loneliness. The Machiavellian mind uses it as training. Every hour alone strengthens his independence. Every silence becomes a meditation on power. When you stop reacting emotionally, you gain access to hidden information. You start noticing patterns others miss. You sense people's motives before they speak them. You can see who's loyal, who's envious, who's quietly plotting against you, and instead of confronting them, you simply adjust your moves. The best revenge is not destruction. It's dominance through understanding. To think like this, you must strip away illusions. Detach from comfort, step away from social approval, because the smarter you become, the lonelier it gets. Most people don't want truth. They want comfort. And when you start speaking truth, they'll call you arrogant, heartless, or dangerous. But they'll never forget you. The goal is not to become emotionally dead. The goal is to become emotionally disciplined. Feel everything but show nothing. Observe everything but reveal nothing. That is how the great manipulators of history stayed in power. They mastered their own reactions. When someone insults you, don't defend yourself, observe their intent. When someone flatters you, don't smile, analyze their motive. Every reaction you control, every emotion you delay adds another layer of armor to your mind. Your intelligence multiplies not by information, but by interpretation. The same event can make one man panic and another man powerful because of how they process it. The brain hack isn't magic, it's self-awareness sharpened to a blade. Eventually, your perception becomes a sixth sense. You start feeling the energy of rooms, the tone behind words, the weakness behind aggression. You no longer respond like a human being, you respond like a strategist, calm, cold, calculated. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Men are so simple and so much creatures of habit that he who deceives will always find someone who will let himself be deceived." But what if you train your mind to see the deception before it happens? Then you are the exception, the one who cannot be controlled. So build your mind into a fortress. Guard it from emotional hijacking, study power, psychology, and silence. Question your every instinct until only the sharpest thoughts remain. When your brain obeys you completely, when you can choose your reaction, your emotion, your perception, then you become the master of yourself. And when you master yourself, no one else ever can. That is the ultimate brain hack. The greatest danger to your intelligence is distraction. Every notification, every argument, every piece of gossip is designed to drain your mental energy. The powerful know this. That's why they stay silent while the world screams. Because noise is how the weak destroy themselves. Focus is how the strong evolve. When your mind becomes addicted to chaos, you lose the ability to think deeply. And once you lose depth, you lose control. Your attention becomes your leash, and someone else is always holding it. The true brain hack begins with reclaiming that leash. Your focus is your weapon. Guard it like a secret. Imagine this. Two people face the same problem. One reacts instantly, fueled by emotion, drowning in fear. The other pauses, breathes, calculates. One becomes a victim. The other becomes a strategist. That pause, that moment of silence before reaction is where power is born. The smarter you get, the slower you respond. People will try to provoke you. They will test your patience, your pride, your loyalty. Don't react, study them. When you stop being emotionally predictable, you become terrifying. People don't know what you're thinking, and that mystery itself becomes control. Fear doesn't come from aggression, it comes from unpredictability. If you want to become 10 times smarter, start thinking like a chess player in a room full of checkers players. Every word, every silence, every move must serve a purpose. The average man seeks comfort in being understood. The Machiavellian mind finds power in being unreadable. You must master the art of strategic invisibility, the ability to blend, observe, and strike only when the outcome is guaranteed. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you start choosing when to feel. The world rewards those who can control their timing. Say less than necessary, wait longer than expected, act later than predicted. That delay drives people insane because they can't read you and they can't control what they can't predict. The brain is programmable. You can either let society program it with fear, insecurity, and pleasure, or you can program it yourself with strategy, patience, and power. Every time you say no to distraction, your mind becomes sharper. Every time you endure discomfort without reaction, your will becomes stronger. That's mental evolution, the kind that makes manipulation impossible. Let others chase emotions, you chase understanding. Let them react to insults, you react to intentions. Let them argue to be right, you observe to win. Every situation hides leverage, and intelligence is about finding it quietly. You must understand, people are not logical. They are driven by emotion disguised as logic. The wise learn to read the emotion beneath every decision. Once you see what people fear, you see what controls them. And once you see what controls them, you can never be controlled by the same thing again. The powerful aren't born with superior brains, they simply think from higher ground. They do not live in their emotions. They stand above them. While the crowd screams, they analyze. While the crowd follows, they plan. While the crowd reacts, they observe. That's why their moves seem supernatural, but in truth, they've just learned the pattern of human weakness. Every person you meet reveals their weakness in how they seek validation. The man who needs to be respected fears insignificance. The one who needs to be loved fears abandonment. The one who needs control fears powerlessness. Find the need, and you find the leash. But cut your own need, and no one will ever hold yours. The brain hack that makes you 10x smarter is not about memorizing information. It's about reprogramming your instincts. Most people operate from survival. You must operate from strategy. Stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what does this situation need me to be? Adaptation is intelligence. You must learn to wear masks, but never become them. Show kindness when it serves you. Show coldness when it protects you. Never reveal your full truth. It's too valuable. People respect mystery more than honesty. Give them fragments, not your essence. The less they know, the more they assume. And assumptions are easy to control, never argue. When people argue, they reveal their insecurities. When you remain calm, they expose their weaknesses for free. Silence will always reveal more truth than words. That's why the most dangerous person in a room is not the one who speaks, but the one who listens without reacting. Train your mind like a weapon. Feed it strategy, sharpen it with solitude, polish it with silence. The more comfortable you become in stillness, the faster your thinking evolves. Because true intelligence is not loud, it's quiet. It doesn't compete. It calculates, it doesn't react, it rewires. There will come a point when people start calling you cold, distant, arrogant. Don't correct them. Let them misunderstand. Let them project. Because while they're wasting energy guessing who you are, you're using that same energy to shape your next move. Control docenti mean dominating others. It means mastering yourself so completely that no one can pull your strings. The mind that cannot be provoked is the mind that cannot be enslaved. That's the final stage of intelligence. Not information, not emotion, but equilibrium. Remember, you're not here to impress the world. You're here to outthink it. Every day, question your beliefs, sharpen your focus, and extend your patience. Think twice, act once, and speak only when your silence can no longer achieve your goal. When you reach that level, your mind stops being your enemy. It becomes your empire. And once you own your mind, you own your world. Ever feel like you're playing a game where everyone else knows the rules except you? There comes a moment in every intelligent person's life when they realize, the world doesn't reward truth, it rewards perception. The people who rise are not the most honest, but the most aware. They understand that power flows not to the kind or the cruel, but to the one who sees reality without emotion. You've been trained since birth to believe that morality and intelligence are the same. They're not. Morality is how society controls you. Intelligence is how you escape it. When you start thinking beyond what's socially approved, you stop being a follower and start becoming a strategist. The true Machiavellian mind knows this. People don't want reality. They want stories that make them feel safe. The moment you stop feeding those stories, they'll call you dangerous. But that's when you know you've begun to think for yourself. You must learn to study the architecture of power, how it's built, how it's maintained, how it collapses. Every empire, every corporation, every relationship runs on the same laws: perception, fear, loyalty, and control. And the one who understands those laws rules quietly from the shadows. Every time someone tries to manipulate you, ask yourself one question: what do they fear losing? Because manipulation always comes from fear. Once you see what they're protecting, their ego, their image, their security, you can see straight through them. This isn't about cynicism, it's about clarity. It's about seeing the chessboard for what it is. Never try to outshout your enemies, outthink them, outweight them. Let them destroy themselves through their own impatience while you sharpen your silence. In a world that worships speed, patience is the deadliest weapon. Think about it. Every impulsive person eventually loses to the one who moves last. The brain hack that makes you untouchable is not about being right. It's about being unreadable. When they can't predict you, they can't control you. When they can't trigger you, they can't defeat you. Every word you don't say, every emotion you don't show, becomes invisible armor. Master the energy in the room. People broadcast their emotions like radio signals: insecurity, envy, admiration, guilt. Learn to tune into those frequencies without reacting to them. When you can sense people without absorbing their chaos, you rise above it. The more silent you become, the more others reveal themselves. It's a fascinating phenomenon. Just let them speak. Let them explain. Let them rush to fill the silence you create. In their words, you'll learn everything you need to know, and you'll have risked nothing. That's the brilliance of psychological control. The less you do, the more you know. To become truly intelligent, you must detach from the illusion of identity. You are not your opinions, your anger, or your past. Those are just programs written by society. You have the power to delete them. Rebuild yourself through conscious choice, not unconscious habit. That is the rarest freedom, to become who you decide to be, not who the world told you to become. The human brain is not meant to be enslaved by emotions. It's meant to use them. Anger can be turned into drive. Fear can be turned into foresight. Sadness can be turned into clarity. Every emotion is raw energy. You just need to master the direction in which it flows. Once you do this, you are no longer a puppet reacting to strings. You become the hand that moves them. That is what makes you impossible to control. You see the world as it is, a battlefield of perception, strategy, and masks. But while others fight for appearances, you fight for understanding. There's something beautiful about silence once you master it. It becomes your shield, your sword, and your teacher. In silence, you hear your own mind clearly for the very first time. And when you hear your own thoughts without interference, you become dangerous, not to others, but to the systems that seek to control you. Because you've met the one thing most people spend their entire lives avoiding: yourself. When you understand yourself completely, the world becomes transparent. You no longer need to prove anything, argue anything, or defend anything. Every reaction becomes optional. Every decision becomes deliberate. That's how the intelligent survive, by choosing their battles with surgical precision. The strategic thinker never wastes energy. They never fight where there is no gain, never speak where silence can win, and never act where patience can destroy. Every move is calculated, every word is chosen, every loss is strategic. And when the world finally realizes what you've become: calm, unreadable, powerful, they will fear you. Not because you threaten them, but because they can no longer control you. They'll sense that you've detached from the collective madness, that you're no longer just one of them. You've become something else, something beyond their influence. That is when you truly become 10 times smarter, when knowledge becomes instinct, when patience becomes nature, when silence becomes strength. You'll walk among chaos untouched, among emotion unmoved, among manipulation undefeated. And when people look at you calm while others panic, silent while others scream, they'll know something is different. They won't understand it, but they'll feel it. That quiet, calculated intelligence that cannot be bought, broken, or fooled. That's the real secret. That's the real power. And that's the ultimate brain hack, to become the mind that nothing and no one can ever truly control. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more content that challenges you to think differently. There's a level of awareness that most people never reach, a level where you stop reacting and start noticing. You notice how every conversation has hidden motives. You notice how every compliment carries an agenda. You notice how every criticism reveals insecurity. Once your brain learns to see this, the world changes shape. You stop being impressed by confidence because you can see the fear behind it. You stop being intimidated by anger because you recognize it as weakness. You stop being manipulated by charm because you understand that charm is a tool of control. Most people are actors trapped in their roles. You are the one who reads the script. The brain that sees patterns sees everything. And once you start seeing, you can't unsee. You recognize manipulation disguised as kindness. You sense emotional traps before they close. You learn to use stillness like a sword, one that cuts through illusion without needing to strike. Every manipulator relies on one thing, your reaction. When you deny them that, they lose control. That's why emotional discipline isn't just self-control, it's warfare. Every calm breath under pressure, every silence after provocation is a declaration of power. You're telling the world, you cannot move me. Do you know why people fail? Because they chase validation more than they chase mastery. They spend their energy explaining themselves instead of evolving. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you gain power. The moment you stop trying to be understood, you become unpredictable. The world cannot control what it cannot define. This is the brain hack the powerful live by. They think strategically, not emotionally. They train their minds to process betrayal without rage, rejection without self-doubt, success without arrogance. Their emotions serve them, never the other way around. The masses call this manipulation, the wise call it control. The reason most people stay weak is because they feed the wrong valve inside their minds. They feed comfort, attention, and ego. The strong feed discipline, silence, and awareness. They understand that the brain, if left untamed, becomes the perfect prison. But if mastered, it becomes the perfect weapon. The powerful never chase control, they radiate it. They move slowly, speak with intent, and act when emotion fades. Every move they make is guided by clarity, not impulse. That's what separates a leader from a pawn. You want to know how to make your brain 10 times smarter? Start treating your attention as currency. Don't spend it cheaply. Every scroll, every argument, every distraction is a tax on your intelligence. Attention is the oxygen of thought, and most people are suffocating without realizing it. Turn your attention into a laser. Focus it on one idea, one project, one goal, until it becomes a force that bends reality. The world is full of scattered minds chasing everything. The Machiavellian mind builds power by doing one thing with brutal precision. The weak drown in emotion because they fear silence. The strong live in silence because they find truth there. If you can sit alone without reaching for a screen, without needing validation, without numbing yourself, your mind will evolve faster than 99% of people alive. Here's the paradox. The more intelligent you become, the less you speak. Because once you see how shallow most conversations are, you stop wasting words. The powerful understand that silence is not emptiness, it's strategy. Every second of silence creates tension, and tension creates control. When you master silence, people start revealing themselves to you. They fill the space with their truth while you reveal nothing. That's why the calm one always wins, because they play a game no one else sees. In a society addicted to exposure, privacy becomes power. Keep your thoughts hidden, your plans unspoken, your emotions unreadable. Let people guess, and while they're guessing, you'll be building. The less they know, the less they can interfere. Even kindness must be strategic. Too much kindness invites exploitation. Too little invites resistance. The wise balance empathy and calculation. They know when to care and when to disappear. They know when to speak softly and when to become cold. They understand that morality is not about being good, it's about being effective. Control isn't about domination, it's about direction. It's about being the calm center in a storm of human chaos. When others break, you hold. When others panic, you breathe. When others surrender, you plan. There's a reason people say, still waters run deep, because depth is silent, depth is dangerous. Depth doesn't need to prove anything. When your brain operates at that level, you become invisible and invincible at once. People won't know what drives you, what scares you, or what breaks you, because nothing does. You'll no longer live in reaction. You'll live in intention. The powerful don't seek to win arguments, they win minds. And the mind that can read others while remaining unreadable has already conquered the battlefield before it begins. Let the world chase distractions, you chase depth. Let them perform, you observe. Let them talk, you calculate. Because one day, when everyone else is burned out, exhausted, and lost in the noise, you'll be sitting in silence, calm, focused, and in complete control. That is when you'll realize you don't need to control others. You only need to control yourself. And that alone makes you unstoppable. At some point, you begin to see that every human interaction is a negotiation for power. Every compliment asks for something. Every apology hides a reason. Every silence contains a calculation. Once your brain recognizes that pattern, you stop living reactively and start moving deliberately. You stop chasing approval, you start creating leverage. You stop explaining yourself, you start studying others. The more you watch, the more predictable the world becomes. The smarter you get, the quieter you become. People think power is loud. It's not. Real power moves like a shadow, unnoticed, patient, irreversible. It doesn't scream to be seen. It arranges reality so that being seen is optional. The ordinary mind needs certainty. It fears change. The superior mind feeds on uncertainty. It thrives in confusion because confusion blinds the crowd. When others freeze, you adapt. When others guess, you calculate. That's how you rise while everyone else stumbles. Your intelligence expands each time you resist the impulse to react. Someone insults you, you smile. Someone lies, you file it away. Someone betrays you, you learn. Nothing touches you unless you allow it. That's mental sovereignty. Most people build empires of noise. You must build an empire of thought. Wake up earlier, think longer. Observe deeper. Your advantage will never come from luck. It will come from awareness. The brain becomes 10 smarter when you train it to interpret pain as information. Every failure becomes data. Every rejection becomes feedback. Every loss becomes redirection. Pain stops being emotional and becomes strategic. Once you reach that state, you become unstoppable because nothing can truly hurt you anymore. You'll start to notice a shift. People will begin to feel uneasy around your calm. They'll mistake your silence for arrogance, your stillness for indifference. But what they really sensing is control, a kind of quiet authority that doesn't need validation. Keep it, never explain it. Every time you walk into a room, you carry an energy field, invisible but powerful. The undisciplined broadcast chaos. The disciplined radiate order. The world bends toward the one who remains composed. Soon you'll understand that being impossible to control isn't about resistance, it's about neutrality. The world cannot manipulate what has no emotional hook. Be the observer, not the participant. Let others exhaust themselves chasing meaning. You simply watch and choose. Eventually your intelligence becomes effortless. You no longer force focus. Focus becomes your nature. You no longer act strategic. Strategy becomes instinct. You think 3 moves ahead without trying. That's not calculation. That's evolution. The brain hack is complete when you no longer need to remind yourself to stay calm, to analyze, to wait. You simply are calm. You are analysis. You are patience. And when you reach that level, you'll find peace. Not the fragile peace of comfort, but the solid peace of power. A peace that comes from knowing nothing outside of you can shake what's inside you. That's the end of the game. Not dominance. Not fear, just quiet control. Because when your mind becomes this sharp, this disciplined, this self-contained, you don't need to fight for power. You become it.